It's Leo. I'm back doing another story time for the Little Lutherans. The book I'm going to be reading today is The Big Orange Splot. Um, yeah, which is about being different. The Big Orange Splot. Mr. Plumbean lived on a street where all houses were the same. He liked it that way, so did everybody else on Mr. Plumbean's street. This is a neat street, they would say. Then one day, a seagull flew above Mr. Plumbean's house. He was carrying a can of bright orange paint. No one knows why. And he dropped the can, no one knows why, right over Mr. Plumbean's house. It made a big orange spot on Mr. Plumbean's house. "Oh, too bad," everybody said. "Mr. Plumbean will have to paint his house again." "I suppose I will," said Mr. Plumbean, but he didn't paint the house the right way. He looked at the big orange spot for a long time. Then he went about his business. The neighbors got tired of seeing the big orange spot. Everyone said, "Mr. Plumbean, we wish you'd get around to painting your house." "Okay," said Mr. Plumbean. He got some blue paint and some white paint, and that night he got busy. He painted at night because it was cooler. The walls, when the paint was gone, the roof was blue, the walls were white, and the big orange spot was still there. Then he got some more paint. He got red paint, yellow paint, green paint, and purple paint. In the morning, the other people in the street came out of their houses. Their houses were all the same, but Mr. Plumbean's house was like a rainbow. It was like a jungle, like an explosion. That's Mr. Plumbean's house right there. There was the big orange spot, and there were little orange spots. There were stripes. There were pictures of elephants and lions and pretty girls and steam shovels. The people said, "Plumbean has popped his cork, flipped his wig, blown his stack, and dropped his stopper." They went away muttering. That day, Mr. Plumbean bought carpenter's tools. That night, he built a tower on top of his roof. He painted a clock on the tower. The next day, the people said, "Plumbean has gushed his mush, lost his marbles, and slipped the hawser." They decided they would pretend not to notice. That very night, Mr. Plumbean got a truck full of green things. He planted palm trees, baobabs, thorn bushes, onions, and frangipani. In the morning, he bought a hammock and an alligator. That's crazy. When the other people came out of their houses, they saw Mr. Plumbean swinging in a hammock between two palm trees. They saw an alligator lying in the grass. Mr. Plumbean drinking lemonade. "Plumbean has gone too far. This used to be a neat street. Plumbean, what have you done to your house?" the people shouted. "My house is me, and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all my dreams," said Mr. Plumbean. The people went away. They asked the man who lived next door to Mr. Plumbean to go and have a talk with him. "Tell him that we all liked it here before he changed his house. Tell him that his house is to be the same as ours so we can have a neat street." The man went to see Mr. Plumbean. They sat under the palm tree drinking lemonade and talking all night long. Early the next morning, the man went out to get lumber and rope and nails and paint. When the people came out of their houses, they saw a red and yellow ship next door to the house of Mr. Plumbean. A ship for a house? That's crazy. "What have you done to your house?" they shouted at the man. "My house is me, and I am it. My house is where I like to be, and it looks like all my dreams," said the man who had always loved ships. "He's just like Plumbeam," the people said. "He's got bees in his bonnet, bats in his belfry, and knots in his noodle." Then one by one, they went to see Mr. Plumbeam. Then one by one, Mr. Plumbeam late at night. They sit under the palm trees and drink lemonade and talk about their dreams. And whenever anybody visited Mr. Plumbeam's house, the very next day the person would set about changing his own house to fit his dreams. So there's a hot air balloon house and a castle house. And then there's another castle house and a temple house. Whenever a stranger came to the street of Mr. Plumbeam and his neighbors, the stranger would say, "This is not a neat street." Then all the people would say, "Our street is it, and we are it. Our street is where we like to be, and it looks like all of our dreams." So the book talks about how Mr. Plumbeam was different than all his neighbors. And he is different because he has different dreams than other people, so it's okay to be different. And then I will read you a section from the Bible. The Great Commission. Jesus went to see the disciples after he had been raised from the dead. They buzzed with excitement. "Is that you, Jesus? We're so glad to see you. Do you want something to eat?" Jesus smiled. "Peace be with you," he said. "I have things to tell you." The disciples gathered close around Jesus, eager to listen to him. Jesus began, "God has given me all the power in heaven and earth." The disciples looked at each other and began chattering again. "Whoa! Wonderful! We knew it! Fantastic! What will you do first?" "Wait," Jesus said. "There's more." The disciples listened carefully. "Go everywhere in the world and teach people about me. And remember, I will always be with you." Jesus returned to heaven. The happy disciples soon began the work Jesus told them to do. Bye, little Lutherans.